Hey everybody, this is your man Will H. the Cinephile, and welcome back to my channel. And I just got out of experiencing the Wolfman, and even though I didn't get to experience it in IMAX, I saw it in Epic XL, which made the experience feel immersive. Like, as you all know, I've always been a huge admirer of Leigh Whannel. Like, he's the genius behind the Saw franchise, and he also made Insidious, which is arguably the most terrifying film that I've ever seen. And then there was Upgrade, which was a brilliant science fiction film. But to be honest, even though I was initially hopeful for The Invisible Man, I was ultimately let down by it. And now, with The Wolfman, while it does have a lot of amazing elements, I still feel like Whannell didn't quite hit the mark, just like with The Invisible Man. However, despite some flaws, The Wolfman had moments that kept me engaged and entertained. The film is far from perfect, but I wouldn't call it bad either. Like, it's a film that, despite its issues, I can call it a satisfying one time viewing experience. Like, I went in with high expectations, especially given how much I admired Whannell's previous works, but I came out feeling a bit underwhelmed, though it still intrigued me by certain aspects. For example, while I had issues with The Invisible Man on my recent revisit, I can still recognize its solid performances, some suspenseful moments, and some memorable directing. But The Wolfman is different. Whannell's visual directing is impeccable. The way he handles the camera and the editing process really brought the story to life. Like, he knows how to build tension, and there are brilliant character dynamics, especially with Blake Lavelle, played by Christopher Abbott, and his daughter Ginger. The familial relationship was beautifully portrayed, and it had an emotional weight that really moved me. That that really moved me in a way. And like now, when I think about the transformations of Blake into the Wolfman, I think Whannell captured something really unique. Like, he's not afraid to take his time, showing Blake's gradual descent into becoming this creature or beast. Like, that the buildup is brilliant, and there's this slow, um, torturous process that makes you feel the character's inner conflict. When Blake fully transforms, it's something that you feel, not not what you see. And the fight scene with the two werewolves battling it out were a standout to me, particularly when one werewolf was attempting to attack the other's family. And that idea behind that scene was fantastic. And even though the twist about the other werewolf's identity was somewhat predictable, it still caught me off guard in the best way. But then there's the issue of the character's decisions. Like, as much as I enjoyed the build up, I found myself a bit frustrated with how often the characters made boneheaded choices. Like, the tension starts to dwindle as you watch them make mistake after mistake. But at a certain point, I felt like I was screaming at the screen. If only they hadn't made that decision, they wouldn't be in this mess in the first place. But in a way, those repeated behaviors severely detracted from the suspense from me, and I found myself becoming more agitated as the film progressed. And when I think about the, the one of the film's strengths is its emotional core, as I mentioned before about Blake's relationship with his daughter Ginger. was heartwarming, but the film effectively explores Blake's struggle not to repeat the same mistakes his father made with him. Like, you can see his genuine desire to break the cycle, and the symbolism in that is powerful. However, as much as I connected with the emotional beats, the plot was continuously dragged down by the characters' frustrating decisions. Like, it felt like the entire narrative could have been avoided or resolved much quicker if they'd just acted smarter. Like, I can't ignore the film's brilliant ideas, though, though one of the most inventive aspects was, like I mentioned before, was the fight scene between the two werewolves. Like, the visual effects were impressive, and the prosthetics and makeup were top notch, especially when it came to the gore. But the violence in the second half was brutal, and I found myself genuinely impressed by the physicality of it all. The grittiness and realism were stark, making the werewolf transformations feel tangible. Still, it was the characters' decisions that undermined the film's potential. And and I might have mentioned this in my channel, but I'm not a big fan of the werewolf subgenre, to be honest with you guys. Like, I've always found it to be underwhelming and dull compared to other horror subgenres. But the Wolfman did manage to keep me invested despite my general indifference. Like, I actually liked the design of the modern Wolfman, even though I know a lot of people disliked it. But it reminded me a bit of Lon Chaney Jr.'s portrayal in the 1941 classic, but with a more contemporary twist. Still, despite these cool visual elements and a solid narrative and dramatic structure, I feel the film doesn't live up to its full potential because of the repetitive and questionable choices made by the characters. Like, the emotional depth was certainly there, especially in the relationship between Blake and his daughter, and the beginning to Blake's troubled childhood and his desire to avoid his father's mistakes added a lot of complexity to his character. Like, it's easy to empathize with his struggle, but as the film goes on, you start to wonder if Blake's decisions are what truly led him down this path, or if he was simply doomed from the start. Like, the tragedy of his character unfolds slowly but surely, and you can feel the weight of his internal conflict. But ultimately, I feel that this is a good film that could have been great. It had everything it needed to be a standout werewolf film, from solid performances to jaw-dropping practical effects. But the characters, like I may have mentioned this quite a few times, but I can't I stress it enough about the characters' repeated poor decisions. That, like, they take a lot away from the experience with their decisions, and and like, it takes away from the experience. But Whannell, as a director, knows how to capture your attention, but the story falters under the weight of its own predictability. Like, it's a film that you can appreciate once, but I doubt that I'll be revisiting it anytime soon, or ever. But I can't shake the feeling that Whannell missed the mark with this one. While his visual style remains strong, it feels like his ability to execute a fully realized, compelling narrative has waned in his recent projects. Like, and I have to mention, this movie marked my first of 2025, and I had high hopes for it. Like, I even had it ranked high among my most anticipated films of the year. Like, while I'm not entirely disappointed, I can't help but feel that I should have been ranked lower. But it's a film that's semi-satisfying, something you watch once and appreciate, but it's not one to come back to. I'm hoping that films I watch this year will exceed my expectations, and that I'll be able to push myself to watch more than I did the last year and the year before. And mainly, I'm aiming to see over 50 to 60 films this year, and I'm hoping the rest of 2025 proves to be a better movie watching journey than the past couple of years. And like I have to say, Whannell is undeniably talented as a director, and I'll continue to admire his work. But I feel like his last two films have missed the mark. Like his intuitive style is there, but the substance isn't. The Wolfman is a prime example of this. It has brilliant concepts and ideas, but it's ultimately held back by the decisions the characters make. And I can't help but feel like this movie could have been something truly remarkable, but it fell short of its potential. So there you have it, my fellow cinephiles. So make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and also follow my letterbox. And I'll be posting a link to my most anticipated films of 2025's in the description. So, just in case if I don't see you guys again, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.